a regular cargo carrier of the Scindia Steam Navigation Company, but there is a passenger cabin aboard. During the voyage from Calcutta to New York in August and September of 1965, the cabin was occupied by Sri Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, whose age was listed as 69 and who was taken on board bearing a complimentary ticket with food. The Jaladuta, under the command of Captain Arun Pandya, whose wife was also on board, left at 9 a.m. on Friday, August 13, in his diary. Bhaktivedanta Swami noted, "The cabin is quite comfortable, thanks to Lord Sri Krishna for enlightening Sumati Moraji for all these arrangements. I am quite comfortable." But on the 14th, he reported seasickness, dizziness, vomiting, Bay of Bengal, heavy rains, more sickness. On the 19th, when the ship arrived at Colombo, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, Bhaktivedanta Swami was able to get relief from his seasickness. The captain took him ashore and he traveled around Colombo by car. Then the ship went on toward Cochin on the west coast of India. Janmashtami, the appearance day of Lord Krishna, fell on the 20th of August that year. Bhaktivedanta Swami took the opportunity to speak to the crew about the philosophy of Lord Krishna, and he distributed prasadam he had cooked himself. August 21 was his 70th birthday, observed without ceremony at sea. That same day, the ship arrived at Cochin, and Bhaktivedanta Swami's trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam volumes, which had been shipped from Bombay, were loaded on board. By the 23rd, the ship had put out to the Red Sea, where Bhaktivedanta Swami encountered great difficulty. He noted in his diary, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. In 2 days, he suffered 2 heart attacks. He tolerated the difficulty, meditating on the purpose of his mission. But after 2 days of such violent attacks, he thought that if another were to come, he would certainly not survive. On the night of the second day, he had a dream. Lord Krishna, in his many forms, was rowing a boat, and he told Bhaktivedanta Swami that he should not fear, but should come along. Bhaktivedanta Swami felt assured of Lord Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not recur. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I was going to read a little bit from Caitanya Caritamrta. That's okay. I've got the mark here on my iPad actually. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. So this is the Caitanya Charitamrita, and it's chapter 3, and it's Adi Lila. Yeah, chapter 3, which is the external reasons for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the reason I chose this is I've been listening to Mahatma Prabhu, and he's been talking a lot about this. And the theme today as well is how to not miss out on the rarity, how rare it is, what it is Lord Chaitanya is offering, and how rare that gift is. And also Mahaprabhu there's a nice talk recorded, 15 minutes he sent yesterday, so that we can listen to later. And yeah, he talks in there, it's very interesting actually that if you're given a gift, you might think if you're given a gift that's the story over, then I've been given the gift. Like at Christmas, you get a Christmas present, and they say, what did you get for Christmas? And you say, I got this and I got that. And then you think, right, okay, I've got it, But then you find out 30 years later that you're still trying to open the wrapper and get the gift out so that you can utilize it. And Srila Prabhupada, in all his humility, there's a nice memory that Shiva Rama just sent me a little while ago. Ray Bhaktinandan Swami remembering how Prabhupada reflected on his own chanting of Hare Krishna, and he said it took him 30 years to perfect his chanting of Hare Krishna. So the motto there is be patient. So you may get the gift, and that's really, really nice. That's what Lord Chaitanya has come to give. Prema Nam, the pure holy name. But only when you chant it offenselessly will you be able to open it, unwrap it. And it takes a certain amount of focus, a certain amount of concentration to be able to unwrap the holy name. And there's a nice reference to the stages of remembrance. This is from, it's taken from, I can tell you later where, from the Kama Purana. So in the Kama Purana, it says, dharana means to concentrate the mind steadily on one point for 12 seconds. I was trying to do that today. Which is 12 seconds for me is about 4 mantras. If I can hear 4 mantras in a row, then I'm doing really well, for me anyway. That's dharana. Anyway, if you get good at it and you start feeling a bit confident, then you go from 12 seconds to dhyana, which is 144 seconds. And dhyana is meditation. So you concentrate, and then it goes meditation. And if you can manage that, 12 dhyanas is samadhi. And that's when you can concentrate for 25 minutes and 28 seconds. So this is the unwrapping of the gift, or part of the unwrapping of the gift. As I was mentioning the other day also, the humility has to be there, the tolerance has to be there, the eager desire to show respect and not have any prestige. These are all methods for opening up the gift that Lord Chaitanya has given. Okay, so here's some of the reasons anyway. This is starting from text 13. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus. So Mahaprabhu was saying, what's really nice about this is we're getting a glimpse into how Krishna thinks, which is quite confidential. Most people are struggling with trying to believe in God, never mind finding out, being able to ponder on his thinking process. So Krishna thinks, for a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Purport. The Lord seldom awards pure transcendental love, but without such pure love of God, freed from fruitive activity and empiric speculation, one cannot attain perfection in life. So I'll read the Bengali. Sakala Jagati Mori Kari Vidhi Bhakti Braja Bhava Paiti Nahi Shakti. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees of Brajabhumi. Aishvarya Janate Sabha Jagat Mishrita Aishvarya Sitila Prema Nahi Mora Prita. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. And then Srila Prabhupada. After his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. One may understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedic literatures and thus become a devotee of the Lord and worship him within the regulative principles described in the scriptures. But one will not know in this way how Krishna is served by the residents of Brajabhumi. One cannot understand the dealings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. By following scriptural injunctions, one may enhance his appreciation for the glories of the Lord, but there is no chance for one to enter into personal dealings with him. Giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduces the chance of one's entering into personal loving affairs with the Lord. To teach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Caitanya. Aishwarya Gyani Vidhi Bhajana Kariya Vaikuntha Kayaya Chatavida Mukti Pana. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the four kinds of liberation. Shashti Sarupya Ara Samipa Shalokya Sayujana Laya Bhakcha Yati Brahma Eka. These liberations are Shasti, achieving opulences equal to those of the Lord, Sarupya, having a form that's the same as the Lord's, Samipya, living as a personal associate of the Lord, and Salokya, living on a Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept Sayuja, however, since that is oneness with Brahman. Prabhupada. Those engaged in devotional service according to the ritualistic principles mentioned in the scriptures attain these different kinds of liberation. For although such devotees can attain Sasti, Sarupya, Samipya, and Salokya, they are not concerned with these liberations, for such devotees are satisfied only in rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. The fifth kind of liberation, Sayuja, is never accepted even by devotees who perform only ritualistic worship. To attain Sayuja, or merging into the Brahman effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the aspiration of the impersonalists. A devotee never cares for Sayuja liberation. So I'll just run through. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service. I shall accept the role of devotee, and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice, so descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. But if I did not show the proper principles of religion, all these worlds would fall into ruin. I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all these living beings. Whatever actions a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. My plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braj. So that's interesting. He's referring there to his other plenary portions, his other incarnations. And they can establish principles of religion for each age, but only Lord Caitanya can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braj. There may be many all-auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastimes. So what's interesting about that is when Lord Chaitanya says, in the company of my devotees, then there's the immediate company of his devotees, but then there's the extended company of his devotees, and they come after Lord Chaitanya, and they're also Lord Chaitanya's associates. So Lord Chaitanya had a big plan. It wasn't just that he would come and he would go, and then whoever caught it got it there and then, and if they didn't, then okay, that's it. Now Kali Yuga is going to come in, and it's going to be difficult. But he sent his associates to come down so that all the work that he had done in the first place wasn't wasted, but it could be more and more nourished and nurtured. So we have a whole lineage of teachers that are coming down on behalf of Lord Chaitanya to unveil the big plan, which is to have his name heard in every town and village of the world. Any questions or comments? Yep.
I think one of the initial verses you talked about a devotional service with all in reverberation is made feeble.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit about how? What does it mean by feeble?
Well, there's another verse that says, when I'm approached by one of my confidential associates in a very sulky mood, it steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. So when it's official, there was one man, he was waiting to see some prime minister, some big guy, and they said, just wait here, he's doing something right now. He's quite busy right now, but he will see to you in a minute. So the man waited for about an hour, and eventually he got a bit impatient. He just opened the door to see what was happening, and the man was imitating a donkey with his grandson on his back, and so when he does finally see the guy, he's going to be in his official president. He's not going to. It'd be very inappropriate for the guy to come in and think, "Oh, is it donkey time, president?" and start jumping on the president's back. Only someone is privy to that type of confidential and very affectionate exchange if he has an intimate relationship in the first place. But if it's official, then okay, you stand over there and you give me honor and glorification, but we can't interact on a more intimate level. So then the affection, the intimacy is made feeble. And Lord Chaitanya has come to give Prema Nam, which is for us to, from offenseless chanting, we can enter into that type of a loving relationship. And there's 4 types of relationships he offers: servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal. He offers those, and he gives access to those. Lord Krishna refers at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Sava Dhamam Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja. He says surrender like the residents of Braja, but he doesn't explicitly go into what that means. So Lord Chaitanya comes down to really show. He shows with his associates, this is how you access into this confidential aspect of a relationship. And in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun's thinking that people in the future may not accept that Krishna is God. He says, well, could you just show me that you are God, just so that we can, just for the record. So Krishna says, yeah, I can show you I'm God. And he shows him that he's God. And it said that the soldiers were watching, and they couldn't see the universal form, but they saw Arjuna getting down and paying his obeisances all the time. Just getting up and just paying his obeisances, because he was just so overwhelmed. And then finally Krishna says, be freed from all this disturbance, my devotee. And again, he resumes his normal form, and immediately Arjuna is reassured, and he feels reinstated in his original position. So if we approach God as God, then it's very overwhelming. He's an infinite, unlimited, supreme person. How can you even say anything? He knows what you're going to say. He knows everything. He's all-knowing. You're just overwhelmed in awe and reverence. Just wow, And then Krishna's saying, well, this isn't as interesting an interaction as if I cast aside my Godhead, and then I can have an intimate relationship. And Rupa Goswami was answering the question because there was an argument about Mother Yashoda chasing Krishna, and Krishna was running in fear. So the question was, is Krishna just pretending to be afraid, which would diminish the Leela? Or has he forgotten that he's God, which would diminish his supremacy as the supreme all-knowing personality of Godhead? And Rupa Goswami said, well, actually, it's a Chinta Shakti. It's simultaneous, which is inconceivable. He's simultaneously aware that he's God and not, so that he can enjoy that. So he is afraid of Mother Yashoda. He's running, and the kajal is coming down his cheeks. He's crying, and he's wanting to put the stick down. She's never taken a stick to him before. So he's not quite sure what's going to happen, and he's afraid, and he's running. And in that moment, he's just like a frightened child. And the awareness of his Godhead would detract from the Leela, although at the same time it's there in the background. And so that relationship is made feeble, although also with Vasudeva and Devaki because Kamsa was very powerful. Kamsa, he wasn't just like he was a very powerful demon, not just for the earth, but he'd overpowered very, very powerful demons that he'd subjugated. So he was no small timer. And Krishna just goes up, pulls him down from the dais by his hair and punches him out, straddles him and punches him to death. So everyone's thinking, okay, this Krishna must be a pretty tough guy. Some Vasudeva and Devaki thought this is actually God, And then Krishna made them forget that, because that was making the relationship of being his parents feeble, you see.
Questions. One is that it seems like the devotees take for the devotees are not necessarily aware of his Godhead, but they're aware of certain aspects of him that is uncomfortable, that Krishna never defeated, because they think, well, let's just turn it down to and even if we are devoured, it won't kill Krishna. So many things we tried before, so they have this unflinching faith that Krishna is a Jita, and we may not even know he's this pure Lord. And still carry on, an unflinching faith and
Yeah, that's a nice point, because on the one hand, they know, it's interesting that the cowboys are also powerful. Really powerful. They actually are really, really powerful themselves, You don't hear about it so much in the Leela. But straight after he kills the Aghasura demon, the cowboys are having a wrestling match, and then they're saying, "You're not that strong," and then they're able to defeat Krishna, and then Krishna has to comply with whatever the losers of that tournament are, So Krishna really relishes just being seen as a person, And the problem with people when they get famous and rich is they're not quite sure who's hanging around them for a slice of the cake and who's hanging around them just because they actually like them, So Krishna's like that as well. It's like, okay, you're just being nice because you know I'm God, but can I put you into a situation where you don't know that I'm God, and then do you still love me?
Yeah, another question was, how can we always safeguard themselves from becoming, as I mentioned, first desire, desire in relation to one devotee. He was either asking Prabhupada about his constitution position or asking about his own constitution, because his first desire then desire. So Prabhupada was on many occasions very careful not to let other devotees jump ahead of themselves. And they have to kind of qualify themselves, although there's, in one sense, there's nothing you can do to keep Krishna's causelessness, because it's causeless, but at the same time, it's not that we just rush into things and start embracing the deities, we just come out the pub, had a shower, and we're going to embrace the deities, and call ourselves a gopi or something like that, so we have to, of course, I'm exaggerating a bit, but they always also have to qualify themselves, don't they, because Krishna reserves the right not to reveal himself to casual or empathetic devotee, as mentioned in fourth canto.
Yeah, there's a lot in that, definitely. There's a lot you could unpack in that. The fact that a devotee has come to the point, the living entity, the jiva, has come to the point of being able to accept this, and then the transitional stage between theoretically and intellectually accepting something, and it becoming a full-blown living reality. And there's an intermediate stage. And the wonderful thing about ISKCON is we have devotees that have traversed that stage, and they're kind of encouraging us, And if you read Srila Bhakti Chintamani, there's a kind of, in the intermediary zone, where there's not so much taste and you're getting free from your anartas, it's at that point that you can become discouraged and think you're never going to make it. And then you slacken your sadhana, you slacken the morning program, everything goes slack, because you think, it's a bit like, you're going up a mountain and you think you're going to get there, and there's a bit of mist around the mountain, and you're thinking, won't be long now, I've been climbing up it for 30 years, must be getting at the top soon. And then the mist clears, and the mountain looks a lot bigger than you'd initially thought. And you can become overwhelmed, or a little discouraged and think, I'm never going to make that. I'm never going to be able to. So then, but there are devotees that are already at the top of the mountain. And they say, no, if you continue on, you're almost there. Your sadhana, you'll start getting a taste, and you'll fly up the rest of the mountain without any problem at all. You won't even feel the weight of your body. It'll just be so easy. Just keep pushing on, don't become discouraged. Just keep doing what you can do, and don't worry about what you can't do. Don't let what you can't do stop you doing what you can do. And then you get there. But Sahajya is someone that takes it cheap. So he's looking for a quick, easy, trying to cut the corners. When you cut the corners, you just create more corners. That's what actually happens. You actually slow the process down. You don't speed the process up. You speed the process up by not cutting the corners, actually. So that's how. So it's how to override that materialistic way of taking it cheap, and thinking, well, if I just do, twice as much of whatever it is I'm doing, then I'll get there twice as fast. But it's not just quantity; it's really the quality that Krishna is looking for.
Also, Krishna mentions for success in devotional service, we have to be patient. So, if we're impatient, we might know what the goal is, and our attempts to practice it, we become impatient, thinking, I don't want to have to do this regulated devotional service. I just want to get the goal. So, out of impatience, then we might just jump ahead and go into the kind of pseudo version of we start to think of ourselves as being really advanced.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, the ones that are really advanced are the ones who think they're not.
Yeah, well, there's a nice expression Mahaprabhu was using the other day in reference to one devotee who is, he was saying, we have to be grounded. So Srila Prabhupada was very grounded, although he was really, he was really up there, really somewhere else in terms of how he was behaving. Was obvious, he had some kind of supernatural, mystical power, and at the same time, he didn't miss a thing. They said that if a tap was dripping, and the drip just dripped once every hour, Srila Prabhupada would walk past just as the drip came out and say, "Why is this tap dripping?" So he was just so precise and conscious of everything that was going on around him. So very, very, and it's interesting because you'd think, wow, I want you to meet this Swami, he's super, super spiritual. And the kind of mundane idea is that there's somebody just like, he's got his head so much in the clouds, he hasn't even noticed whether he's got his dhoti on straight or whether his socks match, the color, and he's just so oblivious and he's going around like that. So that's a very mundane idea of what a spiritual person is. But Srila Prabhupada actually showed us this is what a Brajbasi is. Because the scriptures do say that we should follow a Brajbasi. So Srila Prabhupada came and said, okay, this is how a Brajbasi does devotional service. This is how he chants. This is how he spreads Krishna consciousness. This is how he pleases his spiritual master. This is how he fulfills the mission of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he said, so do as I am doing,
Remember this verse, patiently bearing their good and bad reactions, while continuing their devotional service, waiting on Krishna's mercy. Yeah.
Tatenu kampam shishukshamano, isn't it? And it will be his rightful claim. He will be his rightful claim. Bhaktisiddhanta says the perfection of the human form of life is that you are bearing the holy names at the that you wear your body out performing Hari Bhajan, and then you'll get the mercy.
Good point you made there, because it's seems like some people think bhajan means if you stop everything then you just go and chant. But the safer path to actually be involved in the mission work, I suppose you just chant for myself, I enjoy this, and if anybody else wants to chant, it's okay to chant it themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bhajananandi, he can't help but want to be a Goshananandi because you become so much aware of how people are suffering and how much they're missing out on this wonderful treasure that they have, that they want to share that with others. Whereas if someone's not experiencing that himself, then he may not see the same urgency to want to share anything or appreciate how much a person is really, really suffering. So they say a Goshananandi is just a Bhajananandi that preaches, because you can't help but want to. It's like if you chant really, really nicely and you feel really enlivened and really free from the influence of the modes of nature, then what better way to express that than to go and share that with others? It's such a waste. And you feel like that, you think, oh, this is such a waste. Okay, I'm experiencing it, but I could experience so much more if I could go out and get other people involved, like it was yesterday by Mohini, Devi Dasi's mercy. We decided to, we don't normally do it, but she looked ahead and she saw George's Square was jam-packed, So we went there, and they welcomed us with open arms, didn't they? And they were really lapping it up, weren't they? Really lapping it up. It was like it's like everyone's just like sitting there and they're going through, they were all out on the tables with their drinks, weren't they? Like, and then suddenly they saw the hand and went, oh wow, and they all could kind of come alive, like, oh, here's something fun, here's something real, wow. So they were all getting into it, and some of them just wanted their children, right, to come. They were just like, they brought the child up, and the child's like, and the parents were like, and they don't quite know what it is, but they just want the kids to get it, right? So, look at this, these are nice people and they're having a good time and it's all good, clean fun. So you just watch this for a change instead of all the other nonsense that you're being told about how to find a happy time, So it was really sweet, wasn't it? And we could have just said, oh, I don't fancy going down to smelly Glasgow. Why don't we just hang out in the temple and we'll have a great kirtan and we'll have loads of sweet bowls and we can all say Hari Bol to each other and pat each other on the back and we'll have a great time. But it wouldn't have been as nice, would it, as going out and seeing. And you can see they're all starting their spiritual lives. They're all getting the seeds. They say that for most devotees, the first kind of vivid pull towards taking up Krishna consciousness is seeing devotees on Harinam. You suddenly just see it, and it's the first time in your life you think, I want that. I really want that. I don't know what it is, but boy, I want it. Like anything. I just want to experience what they're experiencing. Whatever it is, I'll take it, I'll smoke it, I'll drink it. You just tell me what it is, give it to me. That's what I am looking for, So all those people got to see that, So that's very, very powerful.
I was wondering also, people have different interpretations of this famous saying of Prabhupada's work. One personal understanding is that we just do as ourselves, we're prescribed duty, we don't have to worry about our own samadhi. Krishna will do that when the time's there. Otherwise, we go to try to do it ourselves and we can do it again. Try to organize our own samadhi.
Yeah. Seva is that it becomes samadhi. Because you can really get into it. I wanted to, I won't give myself an example, but you can be so into something and then you're trying to stop yourself because you've got to try and follow some scheduling and you're thinking, I just want to finish this. So it starts becoming, because you focus on anything in a concentrated way and you do it with all your heart. Actually, that's what I was remembering. Mother Ranjanini, she used to tell Jaggi, She used to say, if you're going to clean something, you've got to put your consciousness into it. And that's the way Mother Ratnarandini used to clean, you know. She used to really get into it. And it was like Seva Samadhi. She was so. And I remember when I was a wee back there at Caitanya College, and we were looking across the greasy floor in the kitchen, and it was like the Arizona desert, you know, with like bits of chilies and grease, and we had to clean it. I was thinking, my God, that's going to take us months, you know. Shyama he was my hero at the time. He'd been a devotee for 2 years, so he was like, you know, it was like the next best thing to God to me at that time. He squeezed out the cloth, and he just went like that on the floor, like he was just diving into it. He was on his stomach, and he was just like getting right into it. And I was like, I didn't want to get the grease on me, you know, so I was like, okay, I'll do it as well. So and then we got across the floor so fast. We did it so fast because I followed his example to just climb into it. And I remember thinking, that's how you do it. Then if you want to really get through the difficult services, you just have to give everything. And then it becomes easy. If you hold back and don't give everything, they say 99% is really, really difficult, and 100% is really, really easy. So for 1%, you miss out on experiencing something really, really wonderful. So if you can put your consciousness into whatever it is, and eventually that will culminate in putting your consciousness into Krishna's service in toto, whatever it is he wants you to go, you know. Another interesting thing to reflect on in terms of giving Krishna pleasure, because sometimes you may get a little bit overwhelmed with your incompetency. That can also sometimes be there when you're trying to do the service. And, you know, in so many ways, the body is really, really weak and limited and quite useless, actually, for what you'd like to do, you know. So it's nice to reflect on the point that every single jiva has an individual, unique relationship with Krishna that can only please Krishna in that way. Nobody else can please Krishna in quite that way. And because Krishna he's a connoisseur of love, and he has a whole spectrum. It's not like when you sit down for a feast and you just have one prep and you think, I'll just pack it in with this, I'll just fill it. When you're having a feast, you want all the tastes, you want a bit of this and a bit of that. So Krishna's like that. He's got his whole creation, and every jiva, every living entity has got a particular flavor, a unique nuance of affection and love that he can't get from any other living entity. And that's why you were created, for his pleasure in the first place. And it's just, when are we going to realize our potential to please Krishna in the only way that we can? And Krishna's missing that. He's hankering for that. He's waiting. When are they going to come back? You know, when Gopal came back, Krishna said, "Why did you take so long?" He's just waiting.
Don't make it hold back. I also heard that we hold back and Krishna also holds back.
Yeah, we want Krishna to get our back, not to hold back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you surrender, I will reward you accordingly. Yeah, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, Mahaprabhu says that Srila Prabhupada's success was him boarding the Jaladuta, because that was the picture of going completely into the unknown with no reassurance of anything at all, not even knowing whether you're going to be alive when you get across, you know, of such a frail age. And he almost did lose his life, and he was prepared to do that. He was prepared to just give his life to what his spiritual master wanted, you know. Yaja Prashadat Bhagavat Prashado. He was very inspired by the translation of that verse by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, that we should have single-pointed Ekiha Guru Nandana, that you just become fixed on the order of your spiritual master. So that was already Prabhupada's success. You know, whether anything happened or it didn't happen, he decided he was going to commit completely. So he had the full blessings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the whole Guru Parampara, and then he was really successful. Of course, we don't always know with ourselves whether we're going to be, but it's not that we're going to hold Krishna to ransom, that I'm going to give everything, and therefore you have to come up with the goods. I'll be wanting this. I'd like a nice big car for a start with a 2.4 engine, and you can throw in a pair of ski trousers that'll keep you warm in the winter, and you can run that hole in the boot while you're there. And it's not like that. We just give everything, and that is the prize, actually. That is the real gift, that you feel yourself in a position where you've given everything. That will be the most satisfying we've ever had, personally. Any glimpses of that, you look back on them. As one devotee said, he was writing an offering to Prabhupada, and he says, when I look back over my devotional life, the only times I regret are the times I didn't surrender. You never look back and think, I shouldn't have done that 3-month marathon. It was crazy. You're always happy you've done whatever you've done, right? Whatever you've been through. You only regret the times you didn't surrender.
The first time you do see it, sometimes you look back and you try to look at it more one day, we forget. Made so much advancement because I think that they don't want to put themselves in that vulnerable position again, so we once again becoming the doer. So there is a risk of falling into that, like you say, eroded in the proper consciousness, then we look back and we regret something different.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't regret anything when you achieve Krishna, when you become conscious of Krishna, then you don't regret anything. You see everything as it was there for a reason. It had to happen for whatever reason. Like we were reading the other day, Bhaktisiddhanta was saying, we can't actually fathom how much Lord Caitanya is making arrangements for us. He's orchestrating everything for us so that we can go back to him. And we won't really appreciate that until we are chanting offenselessly and we're fully Krishna conscious. Then we'll really be able to. So we're kind of biding our time till we can get to that point. But when you get to that point where you achieve Krishna, then you don't regret it. The only thing you'll regret is that you didn't do it sooner. That's the only thing you'll regret. Because you can practice Krishna consciousness as a spectator, or you can practice Krishna consciousness as an actual participant, And spectator, you get some idea of what's going on by spectating, but you don't get the real experience, the real Krishna conscious experience unless you jump in there yourself. You won't regret.
Because it should be done with devotion, whatever we do for Krishna. There's also action premises, but it means those don't just have an devotion feeling or just do an action scene that both have together. So the beginning of that might not be there because our mind may be distracted, but it might be interested in other things, so we're just going to go through the mechanical motions of it. So how can we go from there to do what we're doing with devotion?
It's just part of the course. If someone has been running 30 years longer than you, and you'd like to be where he is, then he'll say, okay, well, you'll have to just run along here for 30 years, and then you'll get there, You can't say, well, why don't you go that way, and it'll only take you 30 days, because 30 years is 30 years. It's just, the thing is, we're reading right now about Ajahn, who was 88, and we heard about Maharaj Parikshit had 1 week left, and the stories in the Bhagavatam to encourage, if somebody does start late, they could think, well, he's been doing it for 30 years, I'm 72, if I last another year, I'm doing well, I've got no chance. But the difference is, when that person who's been doing it for 30 years is 72, his intensity will be more acute because he doesn't know how long he's got left to live, Mahaprabhu was saying that when they were 20, they were all hearing Prabhupada talking about, Prabhupada said, he said, Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days, but you may not have 7 minutes. He said it really heavily, and they were just like 20-year-olds, they'd just been hippies, and they were like, oh, well, okay, we've got 50 years anyway, But now he is 70 odd, and now he's thinking, have I even got 7 minutes? So when you are getting to the end, then you will be more serious and more kind of conscientious about your application of Krishna consciousness. And even if you're 88 and you've led a nonsense life and done, I mean, he had a really bad track record at Ajamil. He had every reason to be discouraged. And he just saw the Yamadutas, he saw the Vishnudutas, and he just glided home. He just didn't put a foot wrong, and back he went. So it just shows, if you can have that presence of mind to decide I'm going to give everything, that's it. Guaranteed.
I'm just going to follow from what you said there. Just at the same time, although there's 10, 20, 30, 40 years, then obviously you can't get that far without doing tests and concentration tests. There's not simply just the passing of time, so there has to be a shift in consciousness somewhere. It's not just hang on tight, and so maybe a same misconceptions. So, yeah. What is that shift in consciousness? What is that change of consciousness from doing it mechanically to actually doing it with devotion or maybe willingly?
Yeah, well, the process is the chanting of the holy name. That is the way that we do our service, and we undergo our tribulations, but really everything, we bring everything back to our relationship with the holy name. So really it's by the mercy of the holy name that we're able to get the enthusiasm to do devotional service. And when we make mistakes and we sometimes veer off the path of pure devotion, it's the holy name that saves us, that brings us back on track, brings us back on course. So there's an internal dialogue going on all the time between us and the Lord, but we're not able to be so fully conscious of that. But when we're chanting, then we get the ability to connect with Krishna, and then he can illuminate and help us to clearly see, what is the path. It's described as being like a traveller lost in the forest, and it's in the dead of night, and he's trying to find his way out of the forest. And every now and again, there's a bolt of lightning across the sky, and that bolt of lightning illuminates the path, and he can see where he has to go and what he has to avoid. And then the bolt of lightning finishes, and he's back in the abyss, back in the darkness, and can't even see his hand in front of him, but he remembers that the path was down there, and there was a big ditch there. So he's going along, and then again there's an epiphany, again there's some illumination, so that on those days when we do chant very nicely, everything becomes very, very clear. And we go along, and we're just going from one glimpse of how we should be to the next, and we're trying to increase the amount of times that happens till eventually it's like that all the time. Shuddhanam is when the holy name is fully present, and then everything is illuminated all the time.
So just maybe offer the answer as well. Thanks for explaining that. Just recently said that in order to get Krishna prema, the thing you have to do is actually prescribe duty. So it's the thing which is there in the beginning, like the detail which carries throughout the whole devotion service, is prescribe duty. If you do that, then Krishna will be so of
Just a quick one from Pada. It's only Captain.
Just one of my favourite quotes about Prabhupada in relation to what you're saying about the urgency of, he says, real philosophy is to stare death in the face.
When you stare death in the face.
So real philosophy is to stare death in the face.
It's to stare death in the face.
This idea of constantly holding the fact you're going to die in your eyes.
You say that?
It's Prabhupada quote.
Nice. Stare death in the face. Well, Srila Prabhupada was Abai, wasn't he? He was fearless. If you're not afraid of death, then there's not much else to be afraid of, is there really? Apart from death. Well, death is the combination of all fear and pain, is death. So that is the real problem, isn't it? And people are trying to kind of bypass that problem and instead distract themselves with sensory pursuits. But eventually they'll have to come back to deal with it again. It reminds me of the person going down the river on a canoe backwards. And there's other people going down the river as well, and they're telling the person who's going down backwards, there's a waterfall coming up, you need to get ready. And the person who's going down backwards has got a TV or an LCD screen, and it's linked up to his phone, and he's watching a movie, and they're shouting, "Hey pals, waterfall's coming, you've got about 30 minutes and you're going to be over the edge, pal." And he's like, "Can you just leave me alone? I'm trying to enjoy the film here, just, So he's not preparing, can you imagine what it's going to be like going over unprepared? At least if you've been reading books on how to, strengthen your grip on the canoe. And as it comes, Garanga! If you're not going to prepare, then. So yeah, real philosophy is being aware of the reality that there is a waterfall coming up and you need to get ready for it. You're not quite sure how long you've got as well. On that analogy, he knows roughly how long he's got, but we don't really know when it's coming, exactly when it's going to happen, So they say if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. But I was planning to get serious in about 30 years after I got a house and a paper mortgage and a couple of kids at university. And God's laughing because I didn't know if you realize, but you're slipping on a banana skin tomorrow and you're finished. You don't know, do you? He knows. He knows. He's got the plan. He knows what's happening. So we don't know. We don't even know if we've got 7 minutes. And on that cheery note, we'll engage in intense devotional service, staring death in the face. Yaskangurvinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shishikoni Dhamma Prashashi ki, Go Premanand, Go. Go Rebecca.